This is when I generally do the State of the Church address, and that's kind of a look back at this last year and a look forward to what's going to come. And I wondered, why do I do this? And I think probably I do it more for my purpose than anybody else's. It kind of came, there's two things in my mind when I say that. One was it came because we always used to have these business meetings, and we covered business, but we never did what I thought we needed to talk about, or at least the heart of what goes on in the church. And so I needed a forum to say my side of the story, I guess. And so that was part of it. But I think it also has good value, maybe not for you, but it's really good for me, especially this year. This past 2008 was such a busy year in so many different ways that it would have been really easy to miss some of the highlights and things that we have experienced. And I'm convinced, and I've always been convinced of this, that God blesses us when we obey Him, when we follow Him, and we do the things that He wants us to do, whether they have intrinsic value or any kind of a way that it can benefit me or the church. It's not, I don't think God does one of these things where if you do this, then He irresistibly must bless you, and therefore, if you give $1, then He's got to give you 10, that kind of thing. I don't think that's the way God operates. But I'm convinced that when you do things that you don't expect anything out of, that God can reward that in other ways. Probably my big example on that, for years and years, our staff is, whenever I get busy, always used to say to me, you got to cut back on some things. And one thing that came up a lot was the Bible studies that I do at Smithville Western. And really, there's absolutely no way that going to a nursing home with people 90 and 100 years old is going to grow our church. I mean, there's just no way that does that. But I've often said that that's the one thing I won't give up. I think it's the thing I do the very, very best, and it's the thing I enjoy the most. And the people there seem to really appreciate it a lot. And there's no way that benefits, but I'm convinced that when you do that kind of stuff and you're faithful to God and just things that have no way of rewarding you, that God blesses you in other ways. I really believe that. And I've been saying that for the last couple of years because we had gone through, and not a lot of secrets here, but we had gone through some really tough things years ago. And I just kept saying over and over that if we do the right stuff, if we just remain faithful to God, no big show or anything like that, that somehow, some way He'll bless. I think He's begun doing that. I think He had. I know He has, but I'm trying to be a little bit conservative on that. I believe that God has really done some neat things to encourage and to bless us as a church, and that's been really good. I'm going to show you some events that we've been involved in the last year, so I'll rapid fire some of this. But one thing that we did this last year, the public school approached us and asked us if we would sponsor Joel Penton, a former player for the Ohio State Buckeyes, part of their national championship team in 2002. And we had him come to the school. He spoke at the high school. I think this is a picture of him here in our auditorium. And we had, 250, 300 junior high kids here that night. Unbelievable noise. I'm surprised you can still sit here with that. And there's Joel doing some of his illustrations and stuff. It was an incredible time because not only did he speak here, and these are pictures from our auditorium, but he spoke at the high school. And I get to the high school a lot, and I'm old, so I've been through hundreds of high school programs, and this was far and above anything I'd ever seen for personal spiritual impact on students. Unbelievable. And sometime ask me for details, but just an amazing thing that we were able to sponsor and to help bring here. And I've been told by one of the students that there's a movement to have him come back real soon, so that would be really nice too. So he did a thing called Love Talks. This is the next thing. This is the young adult group. They what we're doing now with the Fireproof, they did that last year. They had a time where they went away for a weekend retreat and they had a good time studying and growing together. That was kind of a neat thing. So now it's growing into the Fireproof this year. I believe this is the group that went to Urban Hope this last year. Some of us were there for ministry in inner city Philadelphia and had a good time. Some of us survived going there, and so that was good. Poor Lucy. What I did to her that one night, that was so sad. Anyhow, another subject. 2008 graduates, Eric always looking good. And so that's always a neat thing that we recognize are people who have accomplished things, and that's a fun, whoa, wasn't that great? The men's day out, guys outing to hog heaven. And they took their hogs with them too. So we have a lot of really good pictures with these, but not many of them up here today. So there they are, heading out of the parking lot. Unbelievable. Ladies' lunch out. Many, many years ago, I started a men's lunch out, and I did that because I was really concerned about 2 or 3 men in our church who had had very serious losses in their lives, their loved ones, and I was afraid of what was going to become of them. And so I tried to get guys once a month to go out together, and that's been an incredible ministry. Probably 60 to 70 different men have been a part of that over the years. And the ladies are doing it as well, too. They've been doing it for a couple years, and they just have a great time. And usually I whine and stomp my feet when I find out where they're going to eat. And so they have a good time together. And that's another big thing that we do. And there's some others that were there. Kay Kessler is the one you don't know, but Kay is a real great friend of all of ours here in the church. So that's good. Oh, and this was the tea they went. That's one I didn't whine about going to. So they're at a tea. Josiah Detweiler was here. You may remember we did a science weekend with Dr. DeYoung, and Josiah is the one of the assistant directors of the Akron Museum for Fossils and Science, I think it's called, and just a great guy. And he came, we invited him later to come and be with our young people downstairs. And this is one, if you remember, he brought the dinosaur bone that's from the state of Ohio that's about this high. There's other pictures floating around on that. We jump-started literally again our quiz team, and so here they are pretending like they're doing something. And so they do have a rally this coming Saturday at the Akron Elliott Church if you want to have a fun time and see probably 75 or 100 kids doing something really neat. You're welcome to go to that, and our young people are doing well and getting better all the time with it. Our young adult class is probably, I tell people all the time, one of the best things in our church. We have a bunch of them, 20 to 30-year-olds, and here they are at a beautiful farm having an outing, and I think Josh is hosting that. And so they just do something. They do something every month. I'll mention more about what they do a little bit later, but every other month they do something social, and then the other month they do something ministry related. And so they're just a good group. This is a 412 youth outing, and I think that's Logan McGregor leaning over there. So always good to get a picture of Logan in. You can't lose with that. And here's some other things that they were doing. This was one of the outings we did after the Joel Penton thing. We had a huge email list of people, so we invited young people to come to events that our youth sponsored. And so this is one of the summer things that they did, where they had some young kids come and they directed them and stuff. So our GBB ministries still are good and strong. There's when they were at their rendezvous this summer and they got the honor unit, that was a cool thing. They get that a lot, and so that's a neat thing. Our GBB and our SMM ministries made a change this fall. They moved to Wednesday nights, which has been a different thing for them, but it's been working okay, and we're real thrilled to be able to have those ministries here at our church for young boys and young girls. Yeah, it was pretty fun fall this year. Too bad you can't see that even closer up. I don't know what it looks like on yours. Yeah, that's not bad. But once I saw this picture, then I was able to identify the culprit, Scott Lance. So unfortunately, he graduates, so I won't be able to get back at him. But we'll see what it looks like for him in the alumni game next year. So this is when we were at National Conference. Rob Gable joined a Hindu temple. No, actually, he visited one and went and saw the ministries there and learned a lot more about some of their ways. There were other trips like that he and Elmer and some others took. Some of the scenes that you could see, just some of the side stuff. Last year, our adult conference was in Tampa, Florida, and so there were 2 or 3 ministry-related trips that you could go and see and learn of other things. This was a party. Ann would tell me to get off of that, so that's good. And Christmas Eve, that's always a huge thing here, and we enjoy those services together. And I think this is at the rec center. We did that 3 times this last year, and we usually do it 2 or 3 times. And we estimated 70, 75 people were a part of that, where we just kind of go up, and we don't take over the rec center. We allow anybody to come. And I tell some of the high school kids on our team and stuff, I say, just come. Don't use your pass. Tell them you're with the church, and you can get in for free that way. So. And that's the point of it. We just want people together and enjoy the fellowship. And here's some of the fellowship going on inside their pool, which I understood was cold that night. So, and the gym where, hey guys, I'm warning you, some of the young adults have been trash talking about February 12th when we do this again. They're ready for a rematch on a bath. Okay, the youth are ready. I said I may have to coach the young team so that they can win this time. Oh, isn't this tough? We had a couple of losses this year, and Harry Schaub, who has been a wonderful, wonderful member of our church for a long, long time, and he went to be with Jesus in 2008. He hasn't been able to be here for quite a while. He hasn't been with us, but I visited him a lot. And if you know Harry, you know that he was known mostly for being a trustee in our church. That was his love. He took care of this building, him and Willard, and so I was always keeping him posted. And he told me all the stories about the building and especially the boiler project and stuff. So I'll mention some more about that in a moment. And then, of course, we also lost Ethelene not long ago, too. And that was a heart-wrenching thing for all of us. She has been a wonderful, wonderful member of our church and a leader in so many other ways. She taught and just was involved in a lot of things, was a church treasurer for many, many years, and it's just hard to see that. There were others who passed away this last year, none that were necessarily members of the church. So that's just a little bit of what we did. I'm going to mention things that we didn't have pictures of. If you have pictures of them, you can get them to us. But the boiler replacement program that we did this last year, that was huge. And things at Easter that we do, the sunrise is always a great service out at Hillcrest. I wanted to mention the young adults and the Joe Kime. Some of you were here when Joe Kime came. He was the one who has a ministry to the Amish. Amish people, he sends out, I think, like 10,000 newsletters and Bible studies to Amish people. And our young adult class has adopted that ministry. They're very, very involved in it. They give financial support to it. They help do 2,000 or 3,000 of the newsletters. And I know in the past year, some of the newsletters have featured some of the young couples and individuals in our young adult ministry. They have really adopted that as their own. It's sort of like a church outside of the church, inside the church. They do their own thing, but they're just great things that they do. I mentioned Dr. DeYoung being here. We've had Dwayne Pattons have been here a couple times this last year because they were home for medical reasons, but I believe that they're going to be going back within the next 5 or 6 days back to Brazil, so that's really good. District conference, we had Tom Avey. We took a trip, a one-day trip to the Creation Museum down in just across the border of Cincinnati. We had King's Brass here, that incredible music group, and some of the stuff I would have just totally forgotten about that we did. We did the roofing project. We started the landscaping. Honest, that will get done. Some of it's equipment related, but we'll get that all completed here. We had Covenant Players. Tina Walker was here, and her mom and dad came with them, and We're a part of that. One of the ministries we do here, I think you know about this, but it's kind of a neat thing, is it's not really a ministry, but we open the church up for a lot of different activities. But the flu shot clinic that Rittman's do, they were here and that brought hundreds of people into the building. Kind of nice. Our 25th anniversary or 95th anniversary this year was this past fall, and we had Bill Shook come and do his concert for us. It was just an outstanding time, and he incorporated Joe Allen, and he incorporated David Artrip into that as well. And the David Artrip concerts, I don't know if they were concerts, but we went to several nursing homes around Christmas time, and Dave and a bunch of us would go and do Christmas music. It was mostly Dave, but we tried to help a little bit. But it was just outstanding, just really, really outstanding stuff, and that was a lot of fun. And one of the other things we got involved in, and I'm going to mention two big things. One is the Salvation Army Ministries. They had been being done, but things were not getting done as well as some wanted them. I didn't know anything about that, but I was approached about it probably in October, maybe early November, and asked to help them get restarted. And so we kind of headed up the kettle drive. And so we helped them get that going, and they did that throughout the Christmas season. And I don't have the final totals, but it was amazing. It was just amazing, the giving that people in town did. I know right around Christmas, we were emptying the bucket every day and getting close to $900, $1,000 each time we emptied it. So it was pretty amazing the amount of money that people contributed to this, and it was just really a good endeavor. Now what they're doing is on Tuesday evening, there'll be a meeting. There is a church nearby that has offered to house the Salvation Army Ministry. What that means is probably four times a month for a couple hours, 2 or 3 hours, they'll be opened, and clients could come to that place and be interviewed and issued vouchers to help meet financial needs. In our town, there's at least 3 churches that do a food pantry. So the Salvation Army does not feel they need to duplicate that because it's already being done. But what they do is they help with financial needs. They'll help maybe in some cases with rent or with utility payments, things like that. So so you go and you get interviewed, and if you fall under their umbrella of qualifications, then they issue vouchers and they help you take care of those particular needs. And that's just a great thing. So this Tuesday night, there's going to be a meeting. It's at the rec center, and it's for people who are interested in helping them get that restarted. My hope is that in February or maybe March, that we can actually open up and have clients come and get those vouchers. Today, if somebody had a need, they have to go to Orville, to the Salvation Army there, and then they would issue them Rittman money. We have money on account, but you'd have to go that way to get it. So we're hoping just to make it easier for Rittman people to get assistance. And so that's what's going on. I know there are people who have volunteered and said that they'd be willing to be the person who interviews. And so if you're interested in that Tuesday night's a good time to come. But oh, by the way, if you come on Tuesday night, that's not going to obligate you to that. You're not going to be roped in and say, oh, nuts, now I got to do something. It's just coming to help us organize it. There'll be some training sessions that'll be described on Tuesday night, and you'll be able to be helped with that. And I understand, and I know that there are some that have volunteered. I understand some from our church have volunteered to be a part of that, and other churches as well. And it's looking like that if you're a part of that, you may only need to do like a 3-hour stint once every month or so. So, or maybe 2 months, every 2 months or so. So it's not an overwhelming responsibility, but if you're interested in that, come Tuesday night. The other thing that was huge that happened in this last year, which I know a lot of you really got behind and supported, was the Rittman Cares ministry. of the Bible teaching. And I know we've talked about this a lot, but even today when I mention it to people in Rittman, they don't get it. But what happens is at the elementary school, during the school day, a class will be taken out of the school. It's amazing. They just kind of beam them over to the Methodist church, and they go there for about a 25, 30-minute Bible lesson. So if you're a student, or let's say a teacher, I'll pick on a teacher like Miss Linda Nolt. Miss Linda Nolt is a teacher at the elementary school, and her class, kids were allowed to opt into this. Parents had to sign into this, but anybody in her class on a given time, I'll just pretend, let's say hers is Tuesday morning at 10:30. Well, then a Tuesday morning at 10:30, volunteers will take them over to the school, which is a block away, and they will be taught the Bible. They started going through the book of Genesis, some of the creation and stuff, and then around Christmas they took a break and they did some things on the birth and the life of Christ. They're going to finish that up and go back to Genesis again. So they're getting good, solid Bible teaching and some wonderful things. And they go that theory of Miss Nolt's class going every Tuesday at 10:30. A class will go every week. There's about 275 students that are taking that. Others who didn't want to be a part of that go to the library during that time. So it's a really, really neat thing. One of the other neat things is our church has really, really been the one that's done that and has really done all the behind the scenes. Barb Moore is just unbelievably involved in that and incredible. She heads up the volunteer side of it and just has done, she's the one who does all the work, so and has made it really, really work. But it's been an incredible thing. We have 2 teachers that teach that class, and what has transpired is some of the people who volunteer get to listen to the kids quote Bible verses every week. And I've been told by people who know these kids that these kids, some of them don't go to church anywhere, but every week they're quoting Bible verses, learning Bible verses. That's a good thing. Now, North Central has done this for hundreds of years, and so has Northwestern and all those school districts. So they have 90+% involvement in it, but we're growing, and it's, we started with about 40%. We're up to about 50%, and I think in the next couple of years it'll just keep growing. But it's been a great thing. Our church has really been the ones who've done the most financially for it so far, and that's good. We've given well over $5,000 to that, which was what I was hoping we would do. And I'm going to ask our finance committee and the congregation to keep that in the budget for this coming year, because they're going to need a lot of support. Other churches are starting to get in it. There is one other church that purchased for every student in the course, plus every student who wanted it in the entire elementary school, purchased these hardback colored Bible books that are just unbelievable. If you need to see one, they're in our library right now, just waiting. Some of them need to be delivered still, but they are really beautiful books, and I think they are of value and expensive, and one of our area churches funded that whole thing, which was really a great gift. And so it's just good stuff. I'm extremely, extremely excited and encouraged about the Rittman Cares program. It is a tremendous, tremendous asset to the community, and that's through the public school. It's all done right, so don't get your ACL feelings up. It's all done really well, and ACLU. I guess your ACL, mine hurts every once in a while, but your ACLU stuff, don't get those feelings up. It's all legal and done and doing good stuff. So just some financial observations for the last year. I mentioned we gave tons of money to that. Our general fund ended about $3,000 short on the year, but don't panic on that, because you have to remember we did, and I don't have the final figures, but my estimates are we did about $70,000 of repair this last year in our building. When you look at the roof and the boiler and and landscaping and some other things we did. Not all the money came from you. Some of it came from money we had invested and brought back to pay for that. And we actually reimbursed ourselves some of that money that we brought here to pay. And if we hadn't reimbursed that, we would have been okay. But 3,000 short. So that means we begin '09 in our general fund with 14,000 in the fund to go. That's okay. We fight that battle of we want to make sure we have money in case of emergencies and all that, but we also understand fully that you give the money with the idea of using it for ministry. So we're not here to get fat and rich on bank accounts. We want to make sure that we're doing stuff, and that's very important. So that's good. All our other funds, our missions and everything else, everything we cleared and did very, very well on, and we just praise the Lord for that. So I did want to go back and just mention this. Last year, our theme was pleasing the Lord. And I'm not sure if I have this up next or not, but here's some of the verses that we use. 2 Corinthians 5:9, so we make it our goal to please him, whether we are at home in the body or away from it. That context was, we're going to stand before the Lord someday to give an account. Paul was describing, life and the afterlife, and he says, as a concluding thought, he said, it's our goal then always to please God, because we're going to stand before him someday. And that's why we took that phrase, pleasing him, as our theme for this last year. And here's from Hebrews 11:6. It says, without faith it's impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. So we understand that pleasing God is a faith relationship with him. It's not an I can impress God thing, but it's living by faith, honoring him, believing in him, trusting in him, and we want to do that so that every day of our lives we're prepared to stand in his presence. Colossians 1:10, Paul was writing to this church and telling them some neat things that they did. He was honoring and praising them, but he also was concerned because he understood that there was false teaching that was starting to get into their ranks, and he wanted them to endure and persevere. And so he said, and we pray that in order that you may live a life that is worthy of the Lord and may please him in every way, that you will be bearing fruit in every good work, growing in the knowledge of God. So the things that we do that are productive for Christ, and then things that help us to grow in our relationship with God, that's what Paul was praying for them, and those are the things that help us to please God. So that's what we looked at and thought about last year. Now let's see if we can run into this year and see what's going to happen next. Well, our theme for this year is going to be, we're stealing it from our national conference. We don't do that every year, but our theme is going to be the idea of deposit required. And the reason why we're doing that is our theme verse is going to be 2 Timothy 2:2. That'll be really familiar to those who are involved in our Grace Brethren Boys, because that's probably their big verse too. It says, and the things you have heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to reliable men who will also be qualified to teach others. This is the idea of mentoring, discipling other people. That is a huge thing for us in our church. That's probably something that we do really, really well. Maybe you notice that or don't notice that, but it is something, it's a gigantic thrust for us, and we're going to try to emphasize that some in this year to come. I've asked myself, why, after going through all the stuff that we went through this last year, why is it that we had such a good 2008? And I think it's because we were faithful to God, therefore God blessed us. I don't think we did anything spectacular. I don't think all of a sudden I became a genius or anything like that. But I do think that God just has honored and rewarded some of the things that we have done. And so that's why I asked that question. The concept that I see that God used, or that he blessed us for, is I think that there's a sense in which the health of our church has been closely connected to the work that we do with youth and children. Now, I don't have a whole lot of history in our church prior and intimate knowledge of the ministries prior to, let's say, the 1940s. Now, I wasn't here then, but I know a little bit about what was going on then. But I can tell you in the 1950s and on, our church has been known back then for the work with children, some of the huge children's ministries we had, and that continued on. And we added sometime probably in the 60s, really did a great job with the youth ministries. I think we continually do that. But I think that God blesses in those areas too. Now, I will give the caution, 20-some years ago, I had a individual in our church that cautioned me. I don't think they were being negative, but they cautioned me about overemphasis on youth and children's ministries because you could get the tail to wag the dog, and sometimes those things don't pay for themselves, and that's probably true. But I think that our church has always been known for wanting to find young people and pour ourselves and pour our lives into them. And that does not automatically result in success necessarily, but I think there are some reasons why it is a successful thing. The practical reason is because when you do that, they come. And young people, when they come, tend to bring friends, or maybe even in some cases bring families. There are some of you here today that came as a result of your young people getting involved in things first at the church, and then eventually the family came and we were able to trap you here, and you're still here. So those are, practical. It just makes sense, that you get people, there's more people, more numbers, they bring more. That's a very good thing. Culturally, I think it's a good thing because if we're relevant to young people, then we're probably relevant to the culture. And I think that's an important aspect because we don't want to become out of touch. I could care less about the American culture, I really could. It doesn't impress me at all. But on the other hand, we want to be able to reach people for Christ. That doesn't mean we have to speak their language, but we at least need to recognize their language when we hear it. And I think as we're relevant, and if we have young people that are tracking with us, they understand who God is and what He wants to do in their lives, then chances are we're making sense to other people. So I think that's important. And then also just the spiritual thing. When we do what we're supposed to do, somehow, for some odd reason, I think God just blesses that in spite of ourselves. I'm convinced that often we are blessed not because of the brilliance of what we've done, but I think we're blessed because God just takes pity on us. We're being faithful. We're doing the best we can. We may be messing up a lot, but He honors that and blesses us. I think it's important for us as a church not to be me-oriented. We don't want to do that. We don't want to be into ourselves so much. We need to do, as Paul suggested, that in Philippians 2, that we should esteem others and even younger ones as better than ourselves. We ought to put other people as our priorities and not be so focused on ourselves. To start this coming year, starting next week, we're going to do a study on 1 Timothy, and then hopefully we'll follow that up with 2 Timothy. That'll take us up into Easter. The reason why I wanted to do that is because the writings of Paul to Timothy are the writings of a man who's experienced writing and talking to a young man about ready to start out in his ministry life. So we're going to take that kind of an approach where we're trying to communicate what God would have a young person think about and want to do as they're approaching this whole thing of serving God and ministering for Him. We're going to also, after Easter, take a look at some stuff. My good friend Erwin Litzer has some materials. He knows me, but not well. He doesn't call me his good friend. I call him my good friend. I think he's great. And I have some his study materials on just some of the traps and things Satan's doing to people today that are really dangerous and and could cause trouble in people's lives. So that's really important stuff. There are some projects we're going to be doing in 2009. First, in big letters, I have written here that Brian Shum has been accepted to Operation Barnabas. So we're all very excited about that. It will cost him just over $3,000. We always invite, if you want to support that ministry, you're welcome to do. You can mark your church envelope. Oh, I don't know, it's Operation Barnabas. Let's call it OB, if you want to mark it OB. And that we'll direct it that way. Our policy, which goes back to the 70s, is that, and this is a tax deduction thing, this is a government thing, that you cannot give to an individual. So don't write on your envelope, I want this to go to Brian Shum. Don't do that. I mean, you can do that and he'll get the money, but you won't get a tax credit if that's important to you. But we have a fund, Operation Barnabas, we used to call it the Time Fund. I don't care what you write on it, but it'll go to, normally if we had 3 people going to Barnabas, then that fund would be divided among the 3. Right now we have 1, so it's going to be divided among the 1. And so that's good. And I know Brian's really, really concerned about finances on this. And we always tell every candidate that we cannot guarantee what you'll get. It's only going to be what you give is what will come in there. But in the past, every time we've had 1 or 2 go, we pretty much paid the whole trip for them. It's a 6-week time during the summer. Actually, it'll turn out to be like 8 weeks when it's all over. But he'll go and it'll be just great. Brian's a great candidate for that, so we're very excited about it. Some building type projects that we have coming up. We'll finish with the landscaping. Don't ask me what that'll look like. I have no vision of that. There are some things we're going to be doing with the sign out front. That's really getting close to getting worked on. And we're going to we have a sign that's being made to put in the window in the carport that will give times of services and phone numbers and web page so that people who may drive by and wonder when they meet can pull up and look and see. So that kind of stuff. Those are small things. We are going to do probably resurface our parking lot this summer, spring or summer. That'll be important. Sometime this spring or summer, we're probably going to replace the main air conditioning. It'll be 30 years old. And we're not sure if it's going to fall apart first or fall through the roof first. We don't know which will happen first. So no, we're not worried about that. But it could decide not to work, although today we're not worried about that. But we will do that project this summer, spring or summer, and it'll look different because it'll be a ground level thing instead of on the roof, and that's really good. We're going to try to expand and remodel our kitchen downstairs. We're trying to get it into the 20th century. I know we're in the 21st, but we're trying to get it to the 20th century, and so we're going to do that this spring or summer or sometime this coming year. We hope to get that done. There's some printing materials that we want to do, some updating of brochures and stuff. As far as our finances and budgets, we meet tomorrow night, and then we'll have a business meeting in another 10 days or so. There will be some increases in our general, but that'll be adjusted because of all the expenditures last year. So if you see just our financial end of the year reports, our general goals will be less than what we spent this last year, but there will be some in particular expenses. There'll be some changes to our missions and what we're doing. Last year we were asked to increase a certain amount. I don't remember what it is, but it's a small amount for every missionary, sort of like a cost of living increase. So we're going to do that for all of them, except for the Tina Walker Ministry, the Bill Burks, and the Tim Hawkins. And the reasons we're not going to increase them is because Bill Burke always tells us not to, so we're not going to. And then Tina Walker is not going back, but we are going to take the money that we gave to her and we're going to give it to the ministry that she started over there so that we can have an impact on that and keep supporting that. And then the Tim Hawkins we've been telling you that they've been of special needs, so we want to increase, and we're going to have to study that really hard to see how much more we can increase them, but I'm pretty determined that we need to do that, and hopefully we'll be able to do it. Plus, we're going to add Michael and Emily McCammon to mission support. Mike and Emily are going to be going to Mexico to do some training, and then they'll go to somewhere else. They may stay in Mexico the rest of their lives. They may go to Argentina, which is where Gary and Linda are. I really feel we need to connect some level with Mike McCammon. He has always, he's come here as a little kid with his mom and dad. Every time he came, I took him to a sporting event somewhere. We've always connected on that level. And I'll never forget that his senior year, when he was just graduated from high school, after they left here, he went down to Florida to be with his grandparents before they went back to Argentina for his last time to go back down there, living in a home. And he went to spring training. And he went to the Phillies, I wish. He went to the Indians. By the way, the Phillies are still the World Series champions. But he went to the Indians training camp, and this kid goes around he buys a baseball, and he goes around to all the Indians, and he says, "Hey, I need an autograph. I'm giving it to my pastor in Ohio." And he mails me this ball. And it's got Albert Bell and Manny Ramirez and, all those great Indians from, I think it was 96, 97 World Series, probably that time. So we got to support Michael. Now, the real reason we need to support him is because every time he came back to see Emily, who lives in Rittman, or did live in Rittman, every time he came back to see her and date her and stuff, he always went to Amy Immel's house. He always went to Amy Immel's house. And how can you not love a guy like that? So we need to be supportive of him. We're going to probably change our, we supported this last year, a national ministry, Grace Brethren, called Go to Church, which is a church planting thing. We're going to change that and probably go to the Vision Ohio ministry, which is church planting and Grace Brethren churches in Ohio, Ron Bain. And so he's much more connected to us, and we're probably going to transfer that support, or at least that's what we're recommending. The main thing is for this coming year, we have vision of what we want to do. We want to accomplish certain things. We want to build into people's lives, but we still want to please God. We still want to serve Him and please Him and pray toward that. And we need to just be praying as individuals that is our thrust, and that's what we're doing. We're honoring and pleasing God, but also as a church, that it helps us to multiply our ministries toward other people. Let's have a word of prayer together. Father, we just thank you so much for what you have done and given to us, and the ways you have blessed us as a church. We humbly honor you in that. We recognize that every good gift comes from above. And we know that the things that we do in our own strength really need to be done to your glory. And we understand that if there's any good that comes, it's because of your graciousness to us. And we pray, Lord, that you would just give us the strength and the fortitude, the courage to live boldly for you in the year to come. Help us to impact people and lives. Help us to build ministry servants for you. And God, we just pray that the desires of our hearts would match up with your desires for our church. And we pray that that would be the beginning of another year of just great ministry and great encouragements for serving and honoring you. We do these things because of all you have done for us, all you have given to us. And we do it with the purpose of bringing glory to your name. And we pray that that would be the case through our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.